gives a fuck about an Oxford comma? By Great 78.
Who gives a fuck about an Oxford comma? I've seen those English dramas too. They're cruel. So if there's any other way to spell the word, it's fine with me. With me.
Chapter 26. About a Girl. Saturday, November 6th, 1999. Peckwater Flat 307, Christchurch College, Oxford, England. Hermione. Hermione awoke early Saturday morning, after a night of tossing and turning. She needed someone to talk to. In past months, either here at Oxford or back at Hogwarts, she'd have gotten up during the night and wandered into the kitchenette for a cuppa. She'd often been joined by Draco. They would talk sometimes for minutes, sometimes hours, about everything and nothing. But seeing as the wizard in question was one of the things that had caused the restlessness in the first place, she vetoed that idea immediately. She dressed quickly, touching the window pane to estimate the weather outside. It was a bit colder than yesterday, so she summoned her coat from her wardrobe, annoyed that Draco still had her scarf. She could do without a scarf today, but she would need hers back from Draco before classes on Monday. She apparated directly into the utility closet of the Standard Hotel in London, only a few blocks away from Grimmauld Place. She stopped for 2 coffees and 4 sausage rolls at the Boots near the Standard, just because Creature enjoyed serving Harry and his guests didn't mean that he didn't deserve a lie-in, too, she reasoned. Hermione let herself in the front door of number 12 Grimmauld Place, creeping silently, quietly past Walburga's slumbering painting, to slip down the stairs to the basement kitchen. Creature, who would never allow himself a lie-in, greeted her from the hearth, where he was stoking the flame in the fireplace. "Good morning, Mistress Granger. Creature shall fetch the master," the elf said with a low bow, before he popped away, sending Hermione reeling in surprise. Mistress Granger? That was certainly new. It seemed like only a few years ago that Creature had stopped calling her the Mudblood. For as long as she could remember, the elf hadn't even addressed Hermione with words, usually preferring to either pretend as though she'd not spoken, or to respond to her request by speaking to others in the room. She'd never allowed that to bother her, knowing that it was ingrained in Creature's nature. But Mistress Granger was on a whole other level, far beyond Creature's usual address. He took months to address Ron as anything but he. 2 minutes later, a shrieking in the foyer from Walburga's painting indicated Harry's impending arrival. He stumbled in, scratching the stubble on his chin and yawning. "What is it with you people getting me out of bed when I'm working nights? I told you I'd be there this afternoon," Harry grumbled, rubbing sleep from his eyes as he entered. Then he opened them, blinking in surprise. "Oi, Hermione!" "Harry! Good Godric, you look a fright!" She laughed. "Who were you expecting?" The wizard squinted as he smiled, taking his glasses from atop his head and pushing them onto his face. "Sorry, Hermione, I didn't know it was you. A Creature said a mistress of the house was here. I thought he'd finally gone round the twist for good." Hermione threw her arms around her friend. "Harry, I'm so sorry to barge in and wake you up. I just needed someone to talk to. I didn't think you might still be asleep." The wizard rubbed sleep from his eyes. "It's all right. It's great to see you. Are those sausage rolls?" 10 minutes later, whilst Harry ate 3 of the 4 rolls to rally his strength, Hermione told him about all of the things that had been weighing heavily on her mind. Well, almost all of the things. "But I just can't imagine who would want to sabotage my grades, you know? And to do it so carefully. I mean, the transfiguration was visible to everyone else, but not to me. That's serious magic, you know." You're right, Miney." I only hope that Chief Daggery takes my complaint seriously. You haven't by chance seen anything about an investigation into this in the Aura department, have you?" Harry seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "I wouldn't be surprised if there were 1 or 2 auras on the case." Her brow smoothed in relief. "That's good. I'm sure that I'm not the only one who was targeted, now that I think of it. Perhaps I'll ask around." "I wouldn't do that. You might, hinder the investigation," Harry said quickly. "Good point. I'll leave it be, then. So, how are things going with you and Ginny?" Hermione asked. "Not too bad. We've decided to see other people, though," Harry said as nonchalantly as he could, taking a sip of his coffee. "Oh, Harry!" "No, it's for the best," he reassured her quickly. "Ginny knows I didn't date much in school, and she wants me to get out and live a little before we settle down. I told her it wasn't necessary. I wanted to be with her, but she wants me to be sure." Hermione smiled sadly at her friend. Harry, who had always longed for a family, likely could not wait to settle down and marry. But Ginny was right. A little more life experience couldn't hurt. After all, if Hermione had followed the life plan dreamt by her 17-year-old self, she might be married with a baby by now. The thought of that made her shudder and simultaneously want to weep in relief. "And what about you? Any interesting prospects on the horizon? No surprise engagements?" Harry asked, grabbing her left hand and pretending to inspect it for a ring. "Don't be daft, Harry!" She rolled her eyes at him, laughing. "To be honest, that's something else I wanted to talk about. I'm sort of seeing someone right now, and I'm not sure where it's going, or if I want it to go somewhere at all, if I'm being honest." Harry sighed deeply and rubbed at his face, scratching the stubble once more. "Miney, if you're worried about what people will think—" "It's not that. He's a very nice man. I'm just not sure—" "Well, I think very nice might be pushing the envelope a bit. Tolerable occasionally." "I'm just afraid that he's lying to me," she finished, worrying her lip between her teeth. Harry stopped abruptly, appearing to think before speaking. Lying to you?" "Yes, keeping things from me." "Well, perhaps he's only trying to protect you?" Hermione threw him a confused look. "Protect me from what?" "Well, Harry appeared to be searching for words. "I don't know. Maybe he thinks the 2 of you dating will make you a target." She chuckled. "My God! You spend a bit over a year in aura training, and suddenly everything is a conspiracy. Is that it? I don't think Jason is worried about me being a target, Harry." Harry's eyes widened as he fell silent. Then he said, "You're probably right. Training has been intense lately. So tell me more about this Jason. How long have you been seeing each other?" "Well, that's sort of the problem. I'm not even sure if you'd classify us as dating. I mean, we've had dates in the sense that we eat together, and we went to a party together last weekend, and he did spend the night—" "In your flat, with Malfoy there?" Hermione shot him a reproachful look. "Yes, with Malfoy there. You know Draco is my flatmate, Harry. That's not going to change." Harry was quick to interrupt. "No, I just meant—" "But I don't think Draco likes Jason very much, though," she finished. "I imagine not," Harry scoffed. Hermione bristled. "I don't think it has to do with his blood status, if that's what you're thinking, Harry. Draco doesn't seem as hung up on Muggle versus magical the way he used to be." "I'm almost certain he's not." Harry now laughed, removing his glasses to rub his fatigued eyes. "He isn't. In fact, Draco is seeing a Muggle as well, for your information," Hermione said, unsure why she was suddenly defending Draco so vehemently. Harry gave her a disbelieving look as he cleaned his specs on his pyjama shirt. "Is he? Really? That's interesting." Hermione scowled in spite of her determination to sound positive. "Yes, very interesting." You don't sound very happy about it," Harry observed. Why wouldn't I be? I think it's perfectly lovely, absolutely fabulous," Hermione answered, but even she could hear the defensive note in her voice. Harry only stared at her a few moments before he broke into a grin. "If I didn't know any better, I'd say you sounded jealous." "Hush, Harry! Why would I be jealous? Just because—" she said, but stopped herself from continuing. She could feel a blush creeping over her face, and she prayed that the dim light from the kitchen would hide this fact from Harry. But the Gryffindor's wizard aura training had apparently taught him to pick up on things far too well. Harry leaned forward. "Just because what? Did something happen?" "What makes you think something happened?" Hermione tried to deflect, brushing non-existent sausage roll crumbs from her jumper. Harry's knowing grin was unnerving. "What do you think you know?" "Just seems like the two of you keep falling together, you and Malfoy. First sharing a common room at Hogwarts." "That was the school's decision. Headmaster McGonagall built an 8th-year dormitory. What was I to do, just not live in it?" "And now again at Oxford," Harry went on as though she hadn't spoken. "There was a mix-up. Draco was the one who actually proposed the solution," Hermione answered hotly. "I'll bet he did," Harry laughed. "What's that supposed to mean?" she asked. Harry sighed, guzzling the last of his coffee. Kreacher appeared at his side to refill it, but Harry waved him off. "All I'm saying is, you and Malfoy seem to be getting closer. But Miney, that's really not the worst thing in the world." He held up his hands defensively. Hermione relented. "I guess in some ways we are getting closer." Her cheeks were quite red by now, she was sure, and she had a hard time meeting Harry's eyes. "Did something happen? You can tell me. I'm not Ron. I won't fly off the handle or anything," he reassured her. Hermione dropped her head to her hands, which were folded on the table. "Harry, I just don't know any more." "What don't you know?" Still not looking at him, she blurted, He kissed me. Malfoy, I mean." "Huh. And?" She lifted her head in shock. "What do you mean, huh, and? Harry, I just told you that I kissed the biggest blood purist we knew back in school. The bully who went around telling everyone how much he hated mudbloods. And all you can think to say is, huh, and?" Harry seemed to consider her words. "Do you really believe he thought all that? Even after everything?" She was quiet for a moment before she answered. "No, not really. Even then, a part of me could always tell he was just as scared as everyone else. He put on a good front, but, well, when you told me you found him crying in Myrtle's bathroom, when the two of you duelled, it didn't really surprise me." He gave her a strange look. "How so?" "Well, you remember, I spent a lot more time in the library that year. You were busy with Quidditch and lessons with Dumbledore and Ginny. Ron had Lavender, and I had the library. I saw Draco there more evenings than not. He looked unwell, desperate most nights. At the time, I assumed it had to do with his father being in Azkaban. There was a time or two I'd find him sitting amongst the stacks, looking like he'd lost his last friend. When you told me the things he said on the astronomy tower, I realized he was probably trying to work out that cabinet and kept running into dead ends." Harry was quiet for a moment before asking, "How did he act towards you, then, in 6th year? Was he his usual arrogant self?" "No, actually. He seldom spoke then. But, if I'm being honest, he wasn't really rude towards me any time that the two of us spoke alone, without you and Ron or the other Slytherins around." Hermione mused. At his surprised expression, she amended, "Not that we spoke often alone. A handful of times, mostly about assignments. But he always saved his arrogance for his interactions with Ron, or with you." "Lucky us," Harry smirked. He tilted his head to consider. So, you fancy him, then? Her shoulders dropped.
Harry, I don't know.
The two of you seemed close at New Year's last year, he said.
An involuntary smile crept across her face. Yes, I suppose that was true.
And I've got to say, I don't usually go around snogging women I don't fancy, he pointed out.
Hermione grimaced. But it's complicated. Like I said, he's involved with someone, and I'm dating someone too.
This Jason bloke, is he a muggle?
She sighed. That's another thing I wanted to talk about.
Harry tilted his head at her. You're not sure if you want to date a muggle?
It's not that. All right, it's rather confusing. It sounds silly, but I'm not certain he's a muggle. You see, the first time we met, I'd just left the advisor's office. She's the advisor for magical students, and he was outside her door, waiting. We struck up a conversation, and one thing led to another. But then, last Sunday morning, after the Halloween soiree...
2 hours later, Hermione hugged her oldest friend goodbye, thanking him for listening to her worries.
You're a good friend, Harry. I'll think about what you said, about perhaps giving Jason some space, she said, standing to go.
Thanks for your advice about Ginny. So, where are you headed now? He asked, casually.
It's Saturday, so I need to study. I left my rucksack in the flat, so I'll have to go back for it. Then I'm off to the library for the afternoon. That project I told you about, it's due Monday, and I think I'm just going to complete it on my own without waiting for my partner to show up.
Do you usually apparate into the sitting room, or... Harry asked.
Her brows drew together. Why?
Isn't that where Malfoy sleeps? Just curious, if you're going to see him.
She shook her head, laughing. Is this your misguided attempt at matchmaking? Molly Weasley is rubbing off on you more than you realize.
He chuckled. Maybe. But it's like I told you, Hermione. If you decide on your own that Malfoy isn't such a complete prat, and that you want to... I don't know, she asked playfully,
snog him again.
Please, don't put images in my head. Harry winced. Just know that we will still be here for you.
She raised an eyebrow. You think you can speak for Ron on this as well?
Harry tilted his head back and forth in indecision. All right, Ron may take a bit more time to come around, but no matter what, he's still your friend, Hermione. Ron still cares about you, and he wants you to be happy. If Malfoy somehow makes you happy, well, Godric help you, but I'll be happy for you. We both will.
He finished awkwardly. She gave him another tight hug, her smile genuine as her cheeks rubbed his stubbled jaw. Thank you, Harry. I want the same for you.
Harry pressed his lips together, as if to say that time would decide that. Let's talk again soon, yeah?
She nodded, then dropped her arms and took a step away. Spinning on the spot, she landed back in the middle of her bedroom. She checked the time. Not quite 11 in the morning. She could get in a couple of hours of work before lunch, and hopefully she'd be able to find Amelia, so that they could finalize their project assignment together. There were low voices in the sitting room. Hermione heaved a sigh, shouldering her rucksack, and spun on the spot once more, landing back in the Tesco Express janitorial closet she'd disapparated from only the day before to visit Hampstead.
"Find the toilet all right?"
the old man at the register asked, not even glancing up from his newspaper, where he was engrossed in the Sudoku puzzle. "Cheers, thanks," Hermione called, sailing out of the shop's automatic doors.
Theo. He opened one eye slowly, then lifted himself a bit to see if he was alone in bed. He was. He figured as much. Theo was fairly certain that the man from the bar last night was a teaching assistant, and even though he wasn't Theo's teaching assistant, it likely would not do for him to wake up in the bed of a fresher. Draco was sitting at the kitchenette table when he exited the loo after his shower, around 10:30. "Have you seen Hermione this morning?"
he asked the morose-looking wizard. Draco was idly spinning a black quill between his fingers, and he appeared lost in thought. "No, she apparated out of her bedroom this morning, very early. I didn't even know the library opened that early on a Saturday. I heard her leave, and she hasn't come back yet." "Still pissed off and avoiding you, then?" Draco scowled. "I suppose." "Did the two of you ever talk about it? Hash things out?" "Hash what things out?" Draco asked, almost belligerently. "What do you think, Tosser? The shake-up in the House of Lords? Did you talk about your kiss the other night, of course?" Draco sighed heavily. "Yes, she thought I was plastered, and I suppose she assumed I didn't know what I was doing." "You were a little plastered," Theo observed. "Didn't change how I felt," Draco said sullenly. "Did you tell her that?" "Salazar's ass, no. I let her go on thinking I'm a complete tosser." Theo sighed, summoning a coffee mug and pouring himself a cup. "Why are you torturing yourself? And her, mate? Just tell her how you feel." "I can't, Theo." "Why not?" Draco grimaced, dropping the black feather quill onto the table. "Because that's exactly what Shacklebolt wants. He's convinced that she cares about me." "She does?" Theo said simply. "How would you know?" "Did she knock you on your ass and turn you into a jelly slug after you snogged her against the kitchen counter the other day? No? Then there's your answer." "Then all the more reason to keep her at arm's length," Draco replied. "That makes no sense. You realize that makes no sense, right?" "Shacklebolt's grand idea is for me to ask Hermione for her hand in marriage," Draco bit out. Theo was for once mute with shock. "He's worried about Hermione gaining power because of her popularity, and he says that if she marries me, he won't have to worry about her, because with the name Malfoy, she will never get elected Minister for Magic. And he's right, she won't." Theo shook his head slowly and said feebly, "No, that's not the case." "Isn't it, though?" Draco asked, his own voice nearly cracking with emotion. "I love her, Theo, but I would be a dead weight to her career. Hell, to her life. She has the chance to make something of herself, to make a difference. An even bigger impact in the wizarding world than she's already made. But if she ties herself to me, I'll bring her down. It will forever poison her image." "It won't, mate," Theo answered quietly, doubting his own words, even as he said them. "It will, and I cannot let her do that," he replied with finality. "Why don't you let her decide that?" Draco startled, looking at his friend questioningly. "What do you mean? I have given her nothing but space, let her make her own decisions." "You haven't. Neither has anyone else in her life, am I wrong? Weasley decided to be a complete wanker towards her. Her parents have done a bunk. Why don't you let her make this decision for herself?" Draco inhaled deeply, blowing out the air towards his fringe. "Probably fucked that up too. Her relationship with her parents, I mean." "What are you talking about?" "Never mind. Perhaps you're right. I've been trying to steer everything, and I haven't even asked her what direction she wants to go in. I'm no better than Shacklebolt." At Theo's doubtful look, Draco relented. Perhaps a little bit better." Theo chuckled. "Well, I can assure you that whatever direction Hermione goes, she's not going to be going there with that Jason bloke." Now Draco was truly confused. "How so? What do you mean?" Theo tisked at him, as though he'd been born yesterday. "The man's gay, Draco." "What?" "As queer as a square galleon, I tell you," Theo said sanctimoniously. "How the hell do you know?" Draco asked in disbelief. "Mate, I'm bisexual. I know these things. Besides, he made a pass at me during our first week at school in the men's toilets, over at Meadows." Draco frowned. "Are you sure? Perhaps you just misinterpreted." "Very hard to misinterpret a man's tongue in your mouth and his hand in your pants, Drake." Theo answered drolly. Draco's eyes flew wide. You don't think he's just like you? Perhaps he fancies both?
Highly doubtful. Hermione is an absolute smoke show, and every time I've seen them together, the most he ever gives her is a peck on the cheek. I can tell you from experience that's not the way he kisses the people he likes.
Draco could not help the chuffed smile that was overtaking his face. Do you think she knows?
The dark-haired wizard shook his head. Not a clue, I'd say.
From behind Draco, the sound of a crack issued from Hermione's bedroom. She's back, Draco said, with a mixture of anxiousness and hope. His words were followed by another crack, in quick succession. They waited a moment, but heard nothing. She's gone again, I think. A quick Herminium Revelio spell confirmed this. Then both wizards were stunned when a silver stag leapt through the wall of the third-floor flat and cantered towards them at the table. Potter's voice issued from it. Hermione just came here and left. Going to Oxford Library. Now, we need to talk about Jason. When can we meet? The stag turned and strode through the closed washroom door as it disappeared.
Theo cocked a brow at Draco. The plot thickens.
Draco gave him a wry look. Creature. The elf appeared with a pop. Tell your master he can come whenever he's ready. The elderly elf bowed low.
As you wish, Master Malfoy.
Another pop, and the elf was gone.
I love that old codger, you know. Fine set of ears he has. His son may not be up to snuff, but they just don't make them like they used to, you know?
Theo mused. Again, Theo, you were the absolute bell end that made Franklin deaf. You truly do owe that elf an apology, mate. Ronald. Evelyn was making toast again. He could always tell from the burnt smell. Well, that wasn't entirely accurate. It could have been porridge, or sausage, or water, or any number of other things, really. It didn't matter too much what it was, though. Whatever it was going to be burnt, and Ron was going to pretend to enjoy it. Evelyn was a lot of things, but a chef was not amongst them.
Luckily, her other assets more than made up for that, he thought, lazily, as his cock jumped in his boxers, memories of the previous night carousing in his brain. Evelyn might be no great shakes at cooking, but her tongue could perform miracles.
"Ronnie, breakfast!" Evelyn called from downstairs. He pulled on a pair of trousers and cleaned his teeth with his wand as he trotted down the stairs. It was bacon sandwiches, the blackened bacon distinguishable from the burnt toast only because of the thickness of the bread.
"Looks delicious,"
he offered, pulling up a chair to the table and taking a large swig of coffee, which was cold.
"Thanks. The bread isn't nearly as dark as it was yesterday. I think I'm getting the hang of it,"
she said, with indefatigable optimism. She wasn't getting any better at it, actually, at all, but Ron would not tell her that.
"It's perfect,"
he said, grunting to wash down the charred bites.
"I've got to get a move on. Harry's expecting me soon."
Evelyn frowned prettily.
"Oh, all right. I was only hoping we could go into Diagon together today. Madame Morgan's has a sale on those robes you liked, the ones that I wore to Victoire's naming ceremony. But first I thought we could meet my mother at Lady Everleigh's tea cosy for 11s."
He palmed the last 2 bites of the sandwich, vanishing the charred mess under the table. He decided to see if Creature would be kind enough to make him a real breakfast sandwich at Harry's place. A final cold swig of coffee washed down the last of the ashen crumbs in his throat. Standing to kiss Evelyn goodbye, he said,
"Next time, love, if you do go to Madame Malkin's, maybe get the yellow. It'll match your hair. And, give your mother my regards."
Evelyn wrapped her arms fiercely around Ron, pulling herself close to rub her breasts against his chest. Merlin help him, she had to know what that did to him.
"Ronnie, I don't think I've got enough to cover the robes," she said pitifully.
"Say no more, Bunny."
Ron stopped her with another kiss. He had 30 galleons on him. He reached into his pocket, withdrawing 15 to give to Evelyn. Evelyn turned her sad blue eyes on him.
"Oh, Ronnie, Mum always treats me to tea. I thought it might be nice if, just this once—"
He grimaced, placing a finger on her lips to quiet her.
"It's all right. Here's 5 more."
If they were careful, and perhaps 8, with his parents at the Borough a few times this week, they could stretch the last 10 galleons until he was paid next week. If needed, he could always borrow from George, he thought. Ronnie felt the beginnings of a hungry rumble from his stomach, and before it could growl loudly enough for Evelyn to hear, he spun on the spot, reappearing on the doorstep of 12 Grimmauld Place. Opening the front door to let himself in, he caught the smell of coffee coming from downstairs. Hoping that his growling stomach didn't wake Walburga's rude portrait, he hurried in the direction of the kitchen to see what creature had made for breakfast. But poking around the kitchen a bit, he found nothing in the oven or on the hob. Even the coffee had grown lukewarm.
"Oh, good, you're here,"
Harry said from behind him, his hair still wet from his morning shower. He was tucking his shirt in as he walked.
"We're headed to Hermione's flat at Oxford. I hope you didn't have a big breakfast. The place looks like the inside of a skip. It doesn't smell a lot better."
Ron groaned.
"I didn't have a big breakfast. Evelyn burnt the toast again. You don't have anything left over?"
No.
Miney only brought enough sausage rolls for the 2 of us,"
Harry answered regretfully.
"Miney was here? And she brought sausage rolls?"
Ron was uncertain which disappointed him more, missing the chance to see his friend, or missing out on brekkie. He tried to ignore the very real possibility that it was the loss of the sausage rolls that hurt more.
"Yeah, there's a lot to discuss. Let's just get to their flat, all right?"
Ron grumbled, but nodded his agreement.
"You think Malfoy has breakfast?"
Harry gave him a hard look.
"I promise. You'll be glad you didn't eat after you see this place."
Ron laughed.
"All right. So what's the plan? I've never been to her new place, so we're going to flew there, or apparate."
The other wizard hesitated.
"I didn't think of that. The wards allow me in, likely because Hermione set them that way, but you don't think she set them to allow me in without an invitation, is that it?"
Harry's silence was answer enough.
Ron nodded his understanding. "The bus station again?"
Harry shook his head.
"No, Hermione was headed to the library. I don't know the campus well enough to know if we'd be able to avoid her. She got wind that we're at Oxford. Well, suffice to say, she and I had a long talk this morning. I'll catch you up on it at their flat, but she would not be pleased to see me prowling the campus." "Fine. Let's just take the flute, it'll be faster," Ron said as his stomach roiled and growled once more.
Once again, Harry hesitated.
"Honestly, knowing Hermione, the flu has the same wards in place. I'm not sure you'll be able to get through that either. I know what. I'll make a fleeting flu." Ron shot him a dubious look. "You sure you can carry that off? I know Davy's demonstrated it once, but—"
Yeah.
Actually, I convinced him to teach me the spell, and I've already used it a time or 2.
Harry sheepishly confessed. At Ron's look of thunderous disbelief, he tried to quell his friend's jealousy.
"He didn't want to teach it to me. I really had to work to convince him. If you want, I can show you later."
Ron went quiet, except for his growling stomach. This was nothing new to him, as the best friend of the Chosen One, but it still hurt a bit.
"Sure, I understand."
Harry reddened. "Right, so I'll just transfigure this fire poker, and we'll be there in no time." In a matter of a few moments, the temporary flue was created, and the 2 Gryffindors took turns stepping through to the flat in Oxford. As they emerged from the other side, the words that greeted them dispensed with the usual pleasantries. It was the voice of Theodore Nott.
"What the absolute fuck is happening?"
Who gives a fuck about an Oxford comma? I seen those English dramas too. They're cruel.
Thank you for listening to Who Gives a Fuck About an Oxford Comma by Great 78. If you enjoyed the story and would like to listen to more, please follow me on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts by searching for Silver and Copper. Or you can find me under Great 78 on Archive of Our Own.